Hello, my lovelies. I am doing something a little different. I am doing a long form video that is going to hopefully encapsulate my recent trip to the Work of Fred Rogers convention. It was held July 8th and 9th in Latrobe, Pennsylvania at St. Vincent's College at the Fred Rogers Institute. I wanted to do just a little lead in, mostly because I think as someone who is in her late 40s, I'm someone who really resonated with Mr. Rogers as a child. I was in that peak 70s, 80s, and really needed someone like Mr. Rogers. And when I found out from Michael Threets, actually, that he was going to be a keynote speaker at this conference, I'm like, hang on a minute. I didn't know there was a Work of Fred Rogers conference. I need to know more about it. So I did a little bit of research, and I had no idea that there was a Fred Rogers Institute. I, of course, was excited to learn more and potentially go. And one of the things that, of course, it just hit me in the nostalgia, Mr. Rogers and people like him, the Jim Hensons, the LeVar Burtons, all the people who had TV shows in that era, who, spoke directly to children and spoke to their concerns and their well-being as a small human being and the whole of their being. They really were incredibly impactful on me as a young person. And I wanted to see what his legacy could help inspire. I have worked in a nonprofit museum for the last 4 years, and I've really always been drawn to the Muppets and Mr. Rogers and shows like that that worked with, teaching children to reach to different parts of, their well-being, their psyche, and the wholeness of being a young person, just being small. And I have to say, I think that this event encapsulated what it was exactly that I loved and needed in him at that time in my life, and what I think I still need in him now, and what his legacy continues to share with us, and what I think all of us need now in this most difficult time in the world. And it's so much more than just look for the helpers. And so I think I wanted to maybe share a little bit more of this with you. Now, that being said, another reason that I am putting together this video is that my attendance at this conference was made in part possible by the wonderful patrons that I have on my Patreon. I started in April, actually, when I found out about this event, a print a month mailing club. And I have been making little packets to go out in the mail to my patrons. And within them, sometimes there's postcards, sometimes there's stickers. There's always a little zine that talks about the theme of the month. And then there is a print that I have made from scratch that month. It is 100% created by me, almost always created within that month. And it is sent with love. And without that support, I would not have been able to make it. And so this is kind of like a love note and a appreciation to not only the experience of going and the people that I met there and the things that I learned while I was there, but also to the people who in this time when you can do anything with your money, and I know money is tight for a lot of people at this point, you chose to help support me in my dreams. And it was such a gift for which I will be eternally grateful. So I thought I would share a bit of my musings on what I learned, some of the classes that I attended, some of the things I wish I had attended but wasn't able to, and some of the great experiences that I had while I was there. So I hope that you enjoy this long form video. Take care. Hello. I am leaving now to head the 3.5 hour and then some change drive to Latrobe, Pennsylvania, so that I can attend the Works of Fred Rogers conference. I could not have done it without you, and I am just so incredibly grateful. I will share some more along the way. Hope to see you soon. There was a time in my life when I used to spend many hours driving long stretches of highway, but it's been many years, and so this was the first time in quite a long time that I was able to spend hours just driving by myself. I listened to some audiobooks and some of my favorite music, but I was a little bit worried about what to expect from this conference. Because if I'm honest, this is probably the first time in a long time that I've chosen to take a risk and do something just for the joy of it.
Welcome to West Virginia.
Lately, the world feels like a scary place quite often. And I think it was important for me to do something vulnerable and maybe a little bit scary, but something that I think would ultimately bring me a great amount of joy and maybe a little whimsy too, which is something that I think I desperately need lately.
Welcome to Pennsylvania.
I don't often get opportunities to go on trips like this, especially by myself. You know, I'm a mom and I've got a family that I'm trying to help take care of and a full-time job and a bunch of responsibilities that I enjoy, but also keep me in a routine. And so I think I just desperately needed this time to myself to kind of reflect on the places that I've been and the places that I want to go. And so despite the weather being a little challenging, I think I really just needed this time for contemplation, and it helped me get in the best brain space possible for this convention. I finally got to the hotel and made myself at home for just a few minutes before I booked it to Pittsburgh to get to the Heinz Museum. I got there about 40 minutes before they closed, so I was a bit bedraggled, but I was incredibly grateful to be there. It took just minutes for me to see all the things that I had hoped to see. Mr. Rogers right there on his set with his stool and his chair, and it just brought me back to this time of innocence in my life. And just being there with all of these things like picture, where I saw so many videos that he shared with us. And just being able to see the bench that he sat on, sitting on his set, just absolutely took me back to a time when I would go to King Friday's castle and be able to share the joy of the land of make-believe. And there was something that struck me, you know, these sets were made of cardboard and plywood and paint and paper mache, and they brought so much joy to me. And being there with these puppets and these little costumes absolutely transported me back to my younger self, who absolutely wanted to see what it looked like behind the tree, where Mr. Rogers puppeted some of his favorite friends. All in all, it was a wonderful visit. And I made my way back to Latrobe to pay my respects to the family. Many others had joined me in paying their respects and leaving gifts for their old friend and dear neighbor. And it was a wonderful sight to see, to know that he was still cherished and loved by so many, and resting with his wife and his family. The drive to the hotel from the cemetery was absolutely gorgeous, and I got a chance to see St. Vincent College from a beautiful vantage point. And after a great night of sleep, it was time to begin the conference. There's day one outfit. I made my way to the Fred M. Rogers Center and was eagerly awaiting the beginning of the conference. There were so many amazing pieces of memorabilia, including my favorite, my dearest friends, the puppets from the land of make-believe. I got a chance to take a few moments before the conference started to pose with my friends who had such a pivotal role in my childhood. Little Prince Tuesday, Daniel the Striped Tiger, Lady Elaine Fairchild, the Queen herself, X the Owl, Queen Sarah, and King Friday. And just seeing these sets brought such emotions to me, and seeing his sweaters, I knew I was there with people who really understood his mission, and I was eager for the conference to begin. Check-in and registration was very simple. We found ourselves seats with new neighbors, and opening comments were given by the executive director, Emma Swift Lee, who welcomed us and got us hyped for the events that were to come for the rest of the next 2 days. Michelle Figler was our keynote speaker for the first day. The executive director of Birmingham Foundation, she spoke about belonging, and she spoke about technology in children's brains. The hardest part was choosing classes. Each session had 6 options, and it was a challenge to choose. I, however, made my first choice, and it was The Power of Imaginative Play, Museum Theater and Family Learning by Michael Hosp, an actor-interpreter supervisor for the Children's Museum of Indianapolis. Just outside, I ran into a woman who had a puppet in her bag. I was so excited to see her, and I told her I brought my puppet too, and I was glad I wasn't the only one. Let's put a pin in that. It'll be coming back later. For session 2, I chose Exploring Social Emotional Learning Through Drawing Challenges with Jonathan Jurovich. He's a local Ohioan currently, but was originally born in Pittsburgh and has quite deep ties to Mr. Rogers. He spoke about using art as a learning tool in the classroom to talk about emotions and other difficult topics in both his classroom and on his YouTube channel, Drawing with Mr. J. My third session was Rooted in Relationship, a Values-Based Approach to Being a Helper by Tsitsi Shitole. She spoke about Kutamba and how you can use your values to teach others in addition to being a helper in a modern society. One of the things I loved is that she set the norms for the space immediately upon the class beginning. And for not the first time, the word presence was a main focus for a class. Remember that puppet lady I spoke about previously? Yeah, that just so happened to be Jamie Dawn Moyer, who was teaching a class on making puppets out of pool noodles and pipe cleaners. She was talking about how they can use puppets to speak to children and young people, how they can be used as tools, and we spent 20 to 30 minutes making our own puppets, and it was an absolute blast. She was helped by a couple of her friends, Kuko the puppet, and fellow puppeteer Leslie Carrera Rudolph. They talked about how puppets could bring joy to people, and let me tell you how much joy they brought to me. It awakened my old childhood dream of becoming a puppeteer, and I was able to get a picture of my child's puppet, Zoe, with her new friends Lolly Lardpop and Kuko. And it was a wonderful way to end the first day of the conference, but not before being given a banana split, which I have been informed was invented in Latrobe. As I finished my first day, I made a new friend. Someone who was staying at the hotel with me needed a ride back, and her name was Stephanie. She and I spent the next couple of hours going through Old Latrobe, checking out some of the beautiful sights and the historic landmarks that make downtown Latrobe famous. I had always hoped that I would make some friends, but I felt like I've known Stephanie forever. She was a kindred spirit, and we had some fun spending our time together going and taking photographs with the monuments and places in downtown Latrobe that Mr. Rogers inspired. It was like we've known each other forever. So we walked and talked, and I didn't remember that Mr. Rogers was ordained. And so we went on a little jaunt to try and find the church where he was ordained, and luckily we were able to find it just as sun was about to set, and it was just beautiful. And that was how I wrapped up day 1. We both grabbed some dinner and headed back to our hotel rooms for the night. On the morning of day 2, I met a new friend. She came and joined me for breakfast. Her name was Miss Teresa, and she was from Alberta, Canada. We had a lovely chat and kept running into each other the rest of the day. I was so grateful to have met her. Day 2 began with another introduction, and then we got to have a lovely hour with Michael Threets, who spoke on the love of library arts, of reading, and how we can influence young minds today.
I love that the more people you ask, like the different answers you have, the different strategies. I feel like the strategies, what you need, changes each and every day of how you hope, of how you help your anxiety, of how you help your worry.
My first session for day 2 was Creativity for Change with Teresa Emmett, the Executive Director for 4Youth. Their program uses art and creativity to help children in schools express themselves, and I just found it incredibly inspiring. I did take a break to go over to the university bookstore and maybe buy a couple of things. And I couldn't help but take a photo op with Athena, the goddess of wisdom, whose statue was just outside the bookstore. When I made it back to lunch, I was greeted by Leslie Carrera Rudolph, who was, by the way, the puppeteer for Abby Cadabby from Sesame Street. She said, "You know you're a puppeteer now." And when I looked at her with disbelief, she said, "Do you want me to knight you? I'll go knight you. Come here." And she grabbed a pencil and officially knighted me a puppeteer, which is literally a childhood dream come true. And then I went to another puppet class, Healing Hands, Puppets as Therapeutic Tools in Child and Adolescent Grief Work, taught by Dr. Kaylee Bradley and Nancy Bauer. And they talked a lot about grief and development and how these puppets can be used as tools to express grief and do things in ways that might be developmentally more appropriate than having all the words exactly. They were cheerful and serious when it needed to be, and it was a genuinely touching session to attend, and I'm so glad I went. And then for a quick change of pace, I attended Yes and Using Improv Techniques and Games in Social and Emotional Learning by Matt Austin and Jessica Chesbrough.
And we're going to bring a basket, and a bottle of wine, and some games, and a watermelon, and cheese, and crackers, and a blanket, and an elephant in a tutu, and a kite, and some scoot gear. Her friend Darsh, my sister in perimenopause,
Yes.
Ant Farm, depressed 6th Daniel Tiger, Pickles, 2 rowdy dogs, all the neighbors, your dignity, your shoes, autism, Hoover scooter, Polaroid camera, jalapeno margaritas, and a great big yellow hat, and a car to get everything home, because we're bringing it home.
And we learned how make-believe can help us learn a little bit more about the world around us. And finally, helping the helpers, Fred Rogers' legacy in the human side of care. And just like that, with a few closing remarks, the conference was over. I had so much to process about what I learned in those 2 days, and I had quite a long drive back home to Ohio. And with my new friend made from Teresa from Alberta on my dash, I was ready to begin my journey back home. But how do you describe a 2-day or 3-day period like this? Being surrounded by people who are learning and teaching lessons about compassion and trust and vulnerability. But how do you summarize that in a few words or a few sentences? I think some of the things that I was reminded of on this journey was, in this place, I chose to be authentically myself. I dressed in a way that made me happy. I was kind and friendly and trusting and vulnerable in return. And in every opportunity I had, I took those chances to be vulnerable and be myself. And it was rewarded by returned kindness and returned presence, and a lot of those things that I feel like I have missed so dearly in my life. In this digital age, I have so many friends who I communicate with virtually, and I have been so longing for face-to-face connection. And I had that here with people who were practicing all of those gifts that Fred Rogers taught us, presence being one of the most important things. In addition, I was reminded of a quote that I had completely forgotten about, which Mr. Rogers said, "Anything that is human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable is manageable." And that hit me so much because so much of my life I have been afraid to talk about things that maybe seemed difficult or challenging or maybe embarrassing. And I was reminded again and again during this conference that anything that is human is mentionable. And because of that, because we can talk about the things that make us human, we can deal with them together, we can work through them together, and nothing is off the table as long as you can talk about it. And in a world where I often feel like I can't find the people who are my people, I was surrounded for 2.5 days with those people. And it reminded me that I'm not always going to be everyone's cup of tea, But as long as I am authentically myself, I'm going to end up with the people that I am meant to be surrounded by, people who truly appreciate who I am and who I can appreciate fully in return, with all authenticity.
Welcome to West Virginia.
I knew that I had experienced something that was very moving and meaningful to me. And as I was processing how it felt, I learned so much information as well. And I tried to make sure that I captured the moments, and I wrote down notes, and I took pictures so that I could remember a lot of the lessons that I learned, because it was so much to take in. I think my biggest regret was just that there wasn't enough time. Each of the sessions had 6 different options, and so having to choose was just agonizing. But I will say that I learned something from every single session that I attended. And because of that, I just had a lot of things as I was driving home to think about.
Welcome to Ohio.
And with the 6 basic fundamentals of learning and growing, being self-worth, trust, curiosity, solitude, looking and listening carefully, and play, I knew that I had fundamentally rewired some things in my brain about the way that I deal with things and the people around me. I've always tried to be kind, and I've not always been perfect, but choosing to be a little bit better every day is the goal. And I need to know that that is a thing I need to do for myself as well. I need to be able to give myself the same space that all of the people there gave me, and to hold that same space for others, to be present, and to know that we are all here trying our best. I think of the friends that I made at this conference, and I hope that they remain friends for a long time. I think of the amazing moments that I was able to share with the people at this conference, and I know that what I'm taking away is a little bit of Mr. Rogers. I know that I want to be a helper, and I want to look to the helpers in the future. And so, as I made my last few minutes of my journey, I knew that I was coming home to my family with a little bit more love, a little more sense of self-worth, a lot more curiosity, and a hope for more play. I did, in fact, join the Puppeteers Association of America. So let's see about making some childhood dreams come true. But above all, I was reminded that there is still a child in each of us that longs to be seen and valued and cherished. And whenever you can, please take the opportunity to feed that child some joy and whimsy. Literally would not have been possible without the support of my patrons. I cannot thank you enough for everything that you've done for me. You've helped make my dreams come true.